Okay, gents, let's now focus on week 3 of the Premier League season. Huge game coming up. Let's focus on the big one. Manchester United against Liverpool. The small matter of those bitter rivals battling it out at Old Trafford. Both teams have had poor starts to the season by their own high standards. Let's just say that. But the pressure is really stacked on Erik ten Hag and Manchester United after those 2 defeats to Brighton and then that horror show at Brentford. The fans, there's talk of a protest about an empty Old Trafford not turning up. It's going to be really interesting. Evening kickoff in Manchester for this massive rivalry game. Nick, coming to you straight away, what kind of game are we expecting here? Because I was at that mauling last season, Liverpool, when they battered Man United. It got ugly then for United. This part of me thinks it could get even uglier this time, given their form and how they're playing under Erik ten Hag and can't grasp his philosophy. So what kind of game should we expect when Man United and Liverpool face off?
Yeah, I think it's a shame that Erik ten Hag has been so respectful to Ronaldo, because the best thing that could happen would be that one of those train away from the squad situations where you just bunker mentality, siege mentality. Listen, we are going to play one of the 3, 4, 5 best teams in the world in Liverpool. They're coming into our place. We cannot possibly be embarrassed here. Honestly, it's a win for them to walk away with a hard-edged performance where they push Liverpool. Maybe it's a little scrappy. You don't think they'd sign up for a 2-0 loss where they're in the face of the Reds and maybe they can complain about some calls here this way or that way? Liverpool is the number one. Now, I know they haven't played a tour de force, but the number one XG team already through 2 weeks this year. Darwin Núñez, who won't be playing in the game, is the number one player. Liverpool's 4.6 expected goals, 2.5 of them go to Darwin Núñez. This is an opportunity. I know that there will be people doubting Núñez right now for Liverpool because he made a very silly play to get the red card. I mean, there was a headbutt beforehand too that he could have gotten in trouble for, but he is a force despite playing only 97 minutes. And I think that Liverpool should win. They probably will win, but Erik ten Hag has a chance to lay down a marker here. And one of the rare occasions where he can lay down a marker without winning or even drawing. Show that you have commanded the personality of a legendary club, that you have enough people behind you there, that there's something to build on, that you're just missing Frankie de Jong or from being relevant. You're just missing a guy in that position. We know they have a lot more work to do. We know they are years away from being a title contender. But I just look at this as an opportunity for Manchester United. And then I think they watched that Liverpool game yesterday and they start to look to week 4. If this wasn't a rival in any other game, they start to look to week 4 because Liverpool has arguably been pretty darn good and walked away with very little from their first 2 games.
I mean, Liverpool are obviously great on a totally different level to Manchester United right now. Just to throw out some stats, Man United have won their last 12 Premier League games against Liverpool. Liverpool looking for 4 consecutive league wins against United. And they are looking to win 3 straight away league games at United for the first time in their history. So there's a lot there stacked up for Liverpool to be even more of a legendary team than they already are in the eyes of their fans. And Andy, that's kind of the key to this rivalry, right? Liverpool have been so great since Jurgen Klopp came in. It's coincided with Man United just being all over the place, hiring, firing managers, not having a philosophy. And the key thing I want to see from Erik ten Hag's team, as I said, I was in his press conference after the humiliating defeat at Brentford. He was asked about the tactics, playing out from the back. And he said, we're naive. We can't keep playing out from the back like that. But that's what he kind of asks his players and teams to do. So like Nick said, are we going to see a more hard-nosed display, more direct, a more just savvy display from United and say, you know what, this might not be pretty, but we can grind out a draw against Liverpool. We can maybe lose narrowly and come out with some respect. So what kind of game are you expecting? And do you think that in many ways this feels like kind of a good time to play Liverpool for Man United? I don't know. Everyone expects them to get hammered, and the expectations are very, very low.
Yeah. I know we're talking about this game. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, bigger picture real quick. And because something you just said there, Joe, about Liverpool obviously been great since Klopp got there. Yes, they're great under Klopp now. It took time as well. First season, 6th. Second season, 8th. They gave him a season and 3 quarters to that point to then get into the top 4 back-to-back years. Then they went second, almost won the title. Then they won the title. We know what they've done the last couple of years. There's been a Champions League trophy in there. There's been a Champions League final in there. It took a little bit of time. And I think there's a lot of parallels actually that we can draw about where Liverpool were at that time and where Manchester United are right now, because they were both quite a few years removed, I think, from being at the height of the game. And both clubs, I think Liverpool did a better job of accepting this is who we are now at that time. We must take on a long-term project and we must sacrifice a little bit short-term. And obviously they brought in someone like Klopp, who is a builder and who is, who is, a philosopher in a footballing sense. And he has proven to be the right guy for that job. If they believe that at Manchester United, that Ten Hag is the right guy for that job, which, if you didn't believe that, then why did you hire him and give him the 5-year contract that he's got? But then again, why did they hire the last manager that they hired and gave him the contract, and the one before him and the one before him? So there's a lot of parallels now that I'm thinking about it of the age of the squad, just having a lot of players left over that didn't really have a ton of use at that time, a lot of bad signings that should have never been made. And so, all right, let's bring it back into this game now. And the injuries I think that Liverpool are having are the one potential saving grace, the one potential path for Manchester United to have a chance in this game. They're already down a couple of center backs. They're obviously without Nunez due to the red card. Diogo Jota is out as well. I think the most important one, though, is Thiago in the middle. And I think we really, really saw it against Crystal Palace on Monday. They had 70% of possession over the course of that game. They had very few really, really quality chances. Like Vicente Gaeta didn't really have to do a lot to keep Crystal Palace level in the first half up until they have their one opportunity of the 45 minutes and Zaha goes on and scores the way that he does. So I'm looking at just kind of the way that Liverpool have so much possession and they can't unlock teams defensively. So there is a path to Manchester United sitting incredibly deep defensively. McTominay and Fred are going to really have to do a job, but they're going to have to go away from trying to pass it out of the back. Like Ivan Toney said after the game, we knew if we put pressure on them, it would cause them trouble. What he really meant is we knew if we put pressure on them, they would fall apart and hand us the game. That's what he meant when he said that. Liverpool will put that pressure on you as well. And so if they can just, I think, play a little bit smarter in this game, I think they have a chance. But, the vibes around the two respective clubs, I think they're going to matter a whole lot. And I think we're going to learn a lot about Erik ten Hag as Man United manager in this game. I think from just the way he comes out and takes the field before the game at Old Trafford, if he is upbeat and if he, seems like he believes, then okay. But if he has the same look on his face after the game that he had on the weekend, oh boy.
It's going to be interesting. Very interesting. That whole atmosphere, as I said, there'll be fans obviously not happy at all with the start to the season, the protests that have been ongoing. And that is a very negative atmosphere already at Old Trafford. So then if you have a new manager coming in and the tactics aren't quite working, the Ronaldo saga and situation swirling away as well, it's not a good situation right now for Man United. But Nick, Andy mentioned there, a few of the tactical battles. In midfield, Liverpool are lacking a little bit. Centre-back, we saw how Palace got at them on the counter with Nat Phillips being caught out by Zaha. Is that an area tactically where United can, as we say, play a bit more direct, maybe have Rashford, Martial, if he's back, Sancho can really find those gaps? Because we know Liverpool like to play a high line. That's how they operate in terms of getting the press higher up the pitch and relying on Alisson to come out and perform his heroics. And I also want to ask you about Salah. Is he the key? Because he always seems to destroy Manchester United, especially at Old Trafford. And it's interesting with Nunez being out. Does he move centrally? Is he buzzing around Harry Maguire or Lissandro Martinez if he plays? Or does he stay out on the right and just torment Luke Shaw or Malacia if he comes into the lineup? So there's a couple of key tactical battles there. But what are your thoughts on those and maybe other areas where this game will be won and lost?
Well, part of it, I want to know Ten Hag's mindset right now, because if he ever wanted the chance to put Malacia, Martinez, just put all his guys in and say, you saw what happened last week, these guys are terrible, this would be the opportunity. I worry about Luke Shaw against Salah, but he is also the most experienced in that situation. You could see Martinez put out there. Malacia is perhaps the most intriguing, sort of that, do you want that doesn't know any better. Go ahead, play their best guy. Right? Go ahead, you do the thing. I think what's really intriguing, you mentioned Ten Hag being upbeat. I think it's more about the players being upbeat. Not because Andy's wrong in that, or also not because Erik Ten Hag always looks like he's at the last stage of biting through a rock. Like he's got his clenched jaw the whole darn game, and I'm just gonna get this rock to crack. Like that's what he looks like all the time. I'm gonna be looking at the players. Does Harry Maguire look like he's ready to point somewhere and blame someone else? David De Gea, I think, to give him a little bit of love because he got a bit of a support after the game. You talk about playing out of the back. I took that as a bit of a language thing, and maybe you're right, but I took that as what he's saying is De Gea has to know a 31-year-old, five-time maybe Sir Matt Busby player of the season. I'm trusting him to know to just boot the ball sometimes. Like it's not always play out of the back, because in that situation, if you're David De Gea, you've been looking for a steady manager for a long time. You've been saying you want a steady manager for a long time, and you get Ten Hag. Maybe you're thinking, I've got to listen to him. It's a misunderstanding. He doesn't understand that sometimes he can get it, because that's what I'm looking at, the press. It's not particular players. It's Liverpool's press, who's ever in there. I mean, is there any time if Bobby Firmino were to be in there, is there any time you're worried about a drop-off? If it's, hey, go press. You know the system. You know what to do. So it's not a tactical matchup in terms of positions. It's, can you deal with this? Because I don't know that they can.
One interesting point in De Gea, I was watching their preseason win against Crystal Palace, and it was the 87th minute. They're winning 3-1. De Gea lumped it long, and Erik Ten Hag basically said, "What the are you doing?"
Go. Yeah.
And screamed it out. So part of that, when I was watching the game at Brentford, was thinking back to that moment in pre-season where Ten Hag is so desperate to enforce his philosophy, play out from the back no matter what. And you know, managers, when they say that, usually they're like, okay, we'll make some mistakes at the back, we'll give the ball away, give away some cheap goals, but that is how we play. And so I feel like Ten Hag is to blame for some of what happened, a lot of what happened at Brentford, as well as the players. So now can we see him change his tactics, be less naive if you want, and this is a huge test. This is a huge test. Yeah. So prediction, Andy, I jump in before I ask you predictions.
Yeah. He desperately underestimated how badly he would be judged and what the response would be to when those moments do go wrong at Manchester United in a way that's different than other clubs. You can say that in preseason, and then you get to that first game at Old Trafford and it happens, and what happens, continues. I think he's learned a lot about what's ahead of him at United in the last 2 weeks. I think I said that last week as well. This is a 2-0 Liverpool game. I think it's not going to be. It'll be dominant in terms of the possession. I think United will keep them out of the most dangerous areas a little bit better than they managed to do against Brentford. I think they'll be a little bit more pragmatic. But the quality of Liverpool, and I think just kind of some of the lack of quality defensively for United, whether it's a mistake or just the brilliance of Liverpool, they'll get a couple.
Nick,
I got 3-1 to Liverpool, but 1-1 for a while. Again, I don't mean to be too optimistic, but I just keep expecting Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho to look more like themselves. I do think this is a manager that can make them look more like themselves. And Joe, you made the key point. I just wouldn't be surprised if we see a double-digit goal campaign out of Martial if he can stay healthy. And I'm just not trusting. Look, Liverpool have allowed chances in both games, and they did it all of last year too. And Konate's hard. What did Klopp say about there potentially being a witch at Anfield? Because just this last couple of weeks, they've had just a couple of little injuries that have short-circuited his selection. So I don't know. Something's telling me Marcus Rashford has a game. I think he's due more than maybe any other player on United.
I'm going to say what nobody wants to hear ahead of one of these big games, but how many times over the years has it been a 0-0 and just a stalemate? And I feel like this could be that. This early in the season, big rivalry game, Liverpool, injuries, couple of draws. They will go for it and be the favourites. But then Man United definitely going to maybe change to a back five or something. He's going to have to do something drastic to try and just stem the flow, stem the negativity, and try and get some kind of positive vibe. So I'm going to go for a 0-0. I hope it isn't, but I think that'd be a huge boost for Manchester United if it is.
Yeah.
So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com because the three of the lads you can see on the screen will have our picks for this weekend, predictions, all sorts going on. We'll have previews, how to watch information on all the Premier League games and reaction analysis after them as well. So we'll keep you covered. Big weekend in the Premier League and a big marquee game. Man United against Liverpool at Old Trafford. It's going to be a beauty, lads. This has been a beauty of an episode of Pro Soccer Talk. Thanks so much for joining me. Pleasure as always. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great week and we'll speak to you all very soon indeed. Cheers, guys.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.